idea is making it effortless for both technical and non-technical builders to leverage all these powerful libraries, including LangChain, right? So now, during this session, in particular, we're going to focus on custom-trained chatbots, and later tutorials, webinars, we're also going to show you how you can create a custom agent who can have a custom memory and who can interact with the environment using plugins, and you can delegate actual stuff, and it can act like a personal assistant for you or for your startup. So it's going to get more and more exciting over the course of these tutorials. So we start now with the custom chatbot. So the entire idea is based on a very high level, is based on two components: ingestion of the data, the so-called long-term memory, and the second part is running the chatbot, the large language model, over this data, custom data. So we're starting with the first part, ingestion. But what's happening under the hood? You can see here there are several steps of ingesting the data into the ways that it can interact with the language model and generate answers, which also incorporate this, your custom data. So the first thing, would you kindly please mute your background noises if possible? Thank you. So the first is loading the data sources and translating it into text. The second part is chunking this text. The chunking is necessary because the language models support a limited amount of tokens per query, and you cannot. Yeah, I would love to mute if you help me figure out how to do it. Actually, I would do that. Okay, I think it's better now. Okay. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, okay. So chunking the data is important because of the limited amount of tokens, right? You cannot pass like 100-page PDF to ChatGPT. It won't be able to process it. The next step, so the document being chunked into pieces, the next step is generating the embeddings. Embeddings are vectors with metadata, and metadata are basically these chunks, and you can also include further other metadata components also. And the last step is actually storing all this, the created embeddings, so the vectors with metadata, in a vector store or a vector database. An example would be Pinecone. So Fine-Tuner.ai works with Pinecone, and this is the entire process. You would need to do it. This is just a very small part of the entire code, so you would need to, set up the entire technical architecture, host this code, and convert it into API endpoints. And so it's quite a bit of work to make this happen. And then you would also, in addition, you would need to create an index on Pinecone, and so quite a bit of work to do there. With Fine-Tuner, you can do it in a very simplified way. So this is the initial screen, and here you have different categories of agents and chatbots, and this is the ones that we need. A document, a Q&A, a chatbot which can interact with documents. we select this one. This is the first tab. Now, if you go to the data, it's empty now, but this is your dedicated Pinecone storage visualized here. So add memory, and we choose a file. And let's say we want to create some kind of, let me show you. And this is one of the examples. So give me a second, please. Yeah, so this is a white paper on a crypto-related subject called eigenlayer, and it has it's pretty, yeah, so it's roughly 19 pages, right? And it came out, I think, recently, either this year or last year. So we can assume that ChatGPT, which is trained, which is trained on data until sometime 2021, we can assume that it doesn't include this recent type of information, right? So let's then ingest this data into here. By the way, the entire front end is built on Bubble. So it's also no code. Yeah, so now I'm upstarting. So what this step does, it's generating the embeddings. It takes a few seconds. Okay, now I see it here. So basically this part that I showed, this entire part from here to here, was reduced to a couple of clicks. This is it. On top of that, you can see the amount of vectors. If you want to see, so if you go to Pinecone, you cannot actually see the content of the database, of the vector database. But we have built it this way, a bit simplified, but nevertheless, you can see the vectors, each of these 19 vectors, and you can see also how the data is presented here, chunked, and you can make sure that everything's stored there and is fully transparent. You also have the user ID, which you can use in your API calls, meaning that you can host multiple users in this memory storage, right? You can have user 1, user 2, and you can manage them via this user IDs. So this is how it works. And there are other types of loaders. We will, of course, introduce more and more. But for now, we have been focusing on the most requested one. So a simple text, you can just paste the text here and insert it into vector database, or you can, or you can just simply scrape an entire website. So let's say, Alex, give an example of a website.
I don't know. Let's
manual of BBC.com. Okay, let's try BBC.com. Okay, now it's scraping the entire information from the website and pushing it to Pinecone. Yeah, so the entire index, we haven't introduced the ability to scrape the entire index, the sitemap, because they can get really, really lengthy. And for now, we haven't introduced it yet, but that does make sense to also introduce that as well. Okay, it's upserting the URL. I hope that works. Manual. Okay, Bubble worked pretty quickly. At BBC.com, apparently there was some kind of issue. Yeah, so it's tumbled here upon some kind of issue, which we will need to debug. Yeah, but just feel free to let us know if you encounter something like that, and we'll have a look. So exactly. So this was the entire step of the data ingestion, and now you have the information, custom information in the memory storage of the chatbot, right? And when you start asking questions here, the chatbot is going to incorporate this information when answering. How the answering generation part works, this is the second part, and let me show it as well. Yeah, so it was basically reducing this to a visual interface, visual block. So why did we decide to go with Pinecone? There are different types of vector databases, and there has been the hype about vector databases. In the end, vector database is a database, right? It needs to do what it does well, and it needs to be reliable, secure, and fast. So we decided to go with Pinecone. Pinecone is compatible. It's compliant with as the most compliant one in terms of privacy rules, and it's fast and it does the job pretty well. So that was the decision. Now let's start. So let's go with start with retrieval and generation. So we upserted the vectors into the database. What happens next? The next is also process, which consists of several steps. So receiving the question, obviously, and then what the chain performs, it's performing a similarity search, semantic search, based on the upserted information. So it's retrieving the most similar vectors. It condenses everything into a prompt value and pushes it to language model. The language model processes it and generates the answer. So again, there are many steps involved here in the background. There is plenty of code behind this. Yeah, hybrid search, good question. We are currently working on hybrid search, and metadata filtering will also be live very soon. I will answer all your questions in the end when we do the Q&A. Yeah, so this is the process. Again, it is granular in the background, and you can talk about it a lot, but it boils down to these few steps. And what a fine-tuner does, it actually, again, reduces all of that into a simple workflow, simple API endpoints, a visual interface to test, to track and log everything and manage multiple users. Yeah, that's basically what a fine-tuner does. It simplifies all that stuff into very simple steps. The workflow is customizable, meaning that you can use different types of language models, Anthropic or GPT-4, GPT-3, Turbo, and everything. You can adjust the temperature, the chain type, which I will explain what that is. And the next few days, we will also launch the further customizable parameters such as the prompt, the prompt template, and you can also tweak around with that when building your chain. Yeah, another interesting component is the visual log. So all the if you have multiple users using it on your app, you can all the information, all the queries and results are being logged here. You can track it here, and you can then, if you have any issues with debugging and stuff, you can easily do that. Yeah, and the next important part is, so with this, you have the full functional chatbot. And the next step you would do is basically integrate it with your application. And this is what we're also going to discuss. This is a introduction to LLM chains, which is basically a way, and so an LLM chain, it's an approach of tying together the data and the language model, and they can be complex or they can be simple. There are a few types of those, and you can have a look at them. And here you can see also some information. The choice is rather use case based, so you can experiment with different types and make a decision for whichever works best in your case. Conversational memory, it's another thing. Currently, we are working to improve it because the current solution is not the best that we offer, but we have a pretty good solution in a testing phase, which will also be available the next days. The conversational memory is pretty self-explanatory. It's, you know, it's the short-term memory, basically, the chat history. Okay, now we go to the integration part. So you've done all of the steps, and now you want to integrate it into your app. So the way you can do it, you can either do it with using ready-to-use endpoints. So if you have set up this chatbot here and you click on this API endpoints tab, you will see all the parameters, all the information you need to easily integrate this endpoint into your application. The second way of doing that would be a widget, a ready-to-use widget. So you can customize basic stuff for now, like a color and so on. You copy it and include it in the header or HTML element of your website, just like Calendly or something. Or there are also other types of services, you know, that offer this thing. You can also test it out here, and yeah, you can customize it and so on. This is a quite easy way. And the third way would be if you're building on Bubble. We are offering the most support on Bubble, and we also have a ready plugin, which basically wraps all these endpoints into simple plugin workflows. So you don't need to create API calls from scratch. Everything is here, and you can simply use the plugin. It couldn't be easier to integrate chatbots and agents into an application than this. So the next would be, I would actually demonstrate do a quick demo how you can set up this API endpoints quickly and use them to upload files, documents, and whatever into Pinecone, and also, perform a similarity search and generate completions. So let's say we have an application here, very simple, non-fancy front end. Let's open the editor. So Bubble is a fully visual no-code platform, but it's also very powerful. So it's kind of low code. You can also inject code and interact with code. It's like a full stack no-code platform. And I personally have my most experience is based on Bubbles. That's why I use it a lot. So if you go to plugins, you can install this. Hey, would you kindly mute your background? Yeah, so you can download the API connector here, and you can add a call, an API, and let's call it Fine-Tuner. And here I've already set up the two API endpoints. And here, how you can do it. You can simply copy the link of the endpoint, and your private key is already here. Just copy paste it here. Set to the appropriate type of the call. So if either post or get, here it's post action, and this endpoint is supposed to upsert so different types of information into your Pinecone, into your Chatbots Pinecone memory. You can simply copy this. This is the JSON body. Francisco, would you kindly mute yourself? Thank you. And here you can include it here. You can make this variable. Very important is to pass the model ID. This is how the endpoint recognizes which chatbot to interact with. Guys, everyone, would you kindly please mute because apparently it's a bit distracting. I see Ahmed Hassan. Would you kindly mute? Thank you. Okay, so the model ID is super important, and you can find it here. It's always on the top. So you can just copy and paste it here, or it's also here. Yeah, and here are the other types of parameters, and you can look them up here. So the model, the doc type, in this case, it can be either URL or a file URL or simple text. So one of these loaders. And then let's say you choose URL. Hello?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, okay, awesome. Sorry, my
A little bit low.
yeah, sorry about that. My AirPods are out of charge, so sorry. Okay. Yeah, so this is straightforward. You have done it. You can then initialize the call, and you can check if the uploading also takes place. Okay, successful. Okay, this is, I have to change the model ID, obviously. Yep. The private key is your main API key. You can find it here, the API token, or you can also find it in your settings. But it's also already appended here, so you can simply just copy this entire endpoint link, and it's already there. Okay, now we'll try it again. Okay, now you can see hey, would you kindly mute your background? Apex and Sunny, please. Sunny Shores. Yeah, and you can see it. Yeah. Okay. Would you kindly help me out to figure out? You can mute. Yeah. Okay. Give me a second, please.
You could give me the admin and I can try if you can pass that over.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying. I'm not familiar with Google Meet settings, but let me just have a look. Okay. Yeah. So maybe yeah. So I hit the settings here, and
Sunny Shores, please mute.
yeah. Okay. I can't really figure this out. It's on the main screen. Oh, yeah, finally. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah, I think I managed. Yeah, thank you. Awesome. Okay, so this worked. We tested this API endpoint. It was successful, and we uploaded, scraped the website, and uploaded here from another app. Let's have a look. It was successful. We scraped some stuff from Bubble, and all good. The same way you can also do it file and so on. I'll show it as well. But nevertheless, the endpoint works now, and it's initialized, so all good. The next endpoint would be the retrieval. So this is the ingestion, and this is the second part that we discussed, the retrieval and completion. So this would be, we go here, this we integrate it, and the next one is this. So you perform basically the same steps, paste, copy paste the URL here, copy paste the JSON body here, and replace all the necessary parameters. So important one is, again, the model ID. You need it for almost every call, every API endpoint, and you can always find it here on top for each of these boxes, models. So let's copy it, paste it here. And we're doing a test. Let's say, what's this content about or something, right? I'll delete this one, not to mix the contents. And let's test it out. I chose Anthropic, but you can choose one of the available LLMs. So you can just use one of these, copy paste it simply. And the chain types, again, we also discussed the chain types. You can play around in Playground. So you can play with different parameters, decide which one works for you best, and then you can set up your call accordingly, right? Let's go with OpenAI, or Anthropic actually is pretty fast. So I personally use it a lot. Okay. Okay, so I can see it's making a reference to the crypto economic security and so on. If we change the chain, it might do a bit more. It might do more refined similarity search. Might take a bit longer, but in the end, it might bring you more relevant and more better results. So you can play around, experiment with it. So let's test the refine. Takes a bit time to initialize. Okay, so you can see it's more detailed, more sophisticated answer. Depending what you need, you can play around and decide what to use. We'll stick to the easiest one. How is it? Stuff. Yeah. User ID is optional. If you want to manage multiple users, you can, also use this parameter. Okay, so we have both important required calls. Now we can go check out the front end. It's here. I already prepared some workflows. So in Bubble, it's pretty straightforward. I want to choose between different types of content. And using this button here, I want to trigger the uploading API call. So that's easy to implement. Upload. And here I have three conditions. So if it's one, it was my own, yeah, so one is file, two is URL, three is text. And I put these conditions here. So if it's file, it's going to use this API call, which I already set up here. I made the model, so I can change the model. Sorry, oh, okay, this is the plugin. Sorry about that. Fine-Tuner, insert vectors. Okay. So user ID, you can leave it empty, and this would be file. And here, uploader files value URL. Okay. Yep, that's it basically. So you now have the upstarting workflow in place. Here, uploading the document. pressing this button, and it's going to upload to this model's pinecone. Quite simple. The second part is interacting with the chatbot. So you can basically, this would be the input field, and this would be the completion endpoint. We can delete the plugin action and apply our own API endpoint. We say Fine-Tuner, Retrieval QA. Query would be equal to whatever is in this input element, which is query, exactly. Chain type, you can make it dynamic, just like I have it here, a dropdown, you can link it to a dropdown. And you can play with the temperature. You can pass different models. And as soon as the result is ready, you can save it to the database and present it to the user. So for the you can also not save it in the database as you wish. Regardless of that, you will need to find a way to present it, but all the API calls are already logged in your Fine-Tuner here. So output would be the body response answer. Yeah, so we are going to share the recording regardless, and we are going to share the presentation, and we are also going to share this template. So you can, if you want, you can simply copy paste into your app the API calls. So pretty straightforward. Okay, so we have all of this. Let's ask something about eigenlayer, the files that we have uploaded, right? So what's eigenlayer? I can see this is the custom data here. So the expectation is that the language model is going to incorporate eigenlayer is a proposed system that would allow Ethereum stakers, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so if you ask this ChatGPT about this, try it out. It won't have the information about eigenlayer because it's a concept from, I think it's from this year. So it's a custom data that you would need to fine-tune your chatbot on this data. Okay, yeah, so this was the step. The other type of integration is chatbot, and it's really, really easy. Just take this HTML header or just paste an HTML, where is it? HTML thing here somewhere. You copy the widget code, and you have automatically your chatbot easily embedded on your website. The drawback is, of course, it's less customizable, and if you have your own, but it's super quick. If you're using building the APIs from scratch with this copy paste and in the API connector, you can build whatever front end, whatever use case you want, and adjust it the way you want, the same way you would do with code, basically, just in just a small fraction of time, right? Yeah, that's it. Another interesting thing is the plugin, which might be super interesting for you. So if you go to Bubble plugin store, you can type in Fine-Tuner or LangChain, and you can install it. And you have all this. You would need to include here the API key, your master key, which applies to all the bots here. I'm going to show it here, but then I will refresh it. So you can find it here, or you can simply go to your settings, API key, and you can just copy it from here. So you include it here, the API key, and you have all these actions already in place. So the same way we did the retrieval Q&A, if I have the plugin installed, I could say Fine-Tuner.ai documents Q&A. And that's the API. You would need to include the model ID and any other parameters. And the same way you can use the result, the answer of this, to save and utilize the way you want. That would be it regarding the how this works. It's pretty simple, as you can see. Feel free to test it out. One thing to note is the API endpoints are available on the paid plan. So it's part of the paid plan, since you know, it's based on tokens that we also, and infrastructure cost and so on. But we will soon also give you the option of using your own API key, which will make it the pricing for you even cheaper. It's already cheap now, but it will be even cheaper. And yeah, that's it. Now I would say, yeah, here's the chatbot that I integrated. Now, maybe I would say it's time for a Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, I would be happy to answer it. Okay, how would you connect this to Notion knowledge base? Very good point. Notion loader is on the roadmap, and I personally would love to integrate it. And it will be able to interact with Notion as well. Another way you can integrate Notion, you can simply convert your Notion page into PDF or a doc file, right? You can, in download options, you have different formats of downloading Notion page. And you can simply upload it here. Sorry, you can choose file and upload it here. You can upload root Notion Connect via Zapier. I don't, yeah, we actually having planning to create also a custom connection to Notion. So you would use your own API key, and your bots, your agents and chatbots will be able to interact with it.